Committee on Governance in order. Great to see everybody today. We'll take up the following items for approval. Action item 1A is the approval of the minutes of June 6, 2022, Committee on Governance meeting. I move the approval.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain, I was not here.
The item is passed. Now I'll address action item 1B, the policy calendar. 1B is a resolution to authorize members of the Board of Trustees who experience an extraordinary circumstance to attend meetings by video conference under certain conditions and to adopt procedures governing member video conferencing pursuant to Public Officers Law S-103A. Senior Vice Chancellor and General Counsel Derek Davis will present the item.
So, as you know, there was an executive order that allowed the university and state agencies and state instrumentalities to meet remotely during the public pandemic. That order terminated on September 12th. Prior to that, the legislature for the state of New York passed a law, Chapter 156 and the Public Officers Law, companion legislation allows for the video conferencing of public bodies remotely. And in order to exercise the right of a public body to take advantage of those protocols, there first has to be a public hearing on the procedure, and then the adoption by the public body of that protocol to effectuate those procedures in the eventuality you wanted to meet under certain extreme circumstances by video conference. What you have before you and what we've circulated based on input with all of our stakeholders is a policy that contemplates video conferencing of a public body, namely the City University of New York, by video conferencing under discrete circumstances. And so that sums up the reso along with the attached procedure.
Any discussion?
I have a question. On the first resolved, it mentions the Board of Trustees of the University of New York. So there's a part where it says as long as the members can be seen, heard, and identified while the open portion of the meeting is being conducted. Otherwise, okay, not that part. Okay. Okay. As long as a quorum of the members attend in person at one or more locations open to the public. So do we have one specific meeting happening at many locations at the same time?
So the quorum has to have, the actual quorum has to be in person. Members can act who are voting if they're not in person, that are not part of the quorum remotely. However, under the reasonable accommodation statute, if you are going to vote remotely, your location has to be made public. Mm-hmm. And that location has to be accessible to the public. So it's quite possible, for example, if you were deemed in a circumstance where you're under extreme circumstances where you could not attend, and the chair were to recognize that, and your space was designated as the location where you would act and meet, your location, your home, would be made known publicly, and quite possibly someone could come and participate in the meeting with you at your location. That's why it's a rather extreme and unusual circumstance, and it would only be encouraged under the most difficult circumstances. But yes, not only your name and your likeness has to be visible, but your location has to be made known to the general public if you're going to participate remotely.
And your location has to be accessible.
Accessible, that's correct.
So if you're ill at home,
Well, ill would be a different story, respectfully, Chair. If you're disabled and you're unable to get to the meeting, it doesn't contemplate your inability to reasonably participate. So hopefully, yes, under those circumstances, if you're reasonably able to participate and you're otherwise disabled in accordance with the American Disabilities Act, and the chair or the secretary in combination determine that you're unable to participate, yes, it is likely that your address is going to be published, and yes, it has to be accessible to the public.
Yeah, I'm just looking, this is it's on page 4. It just seems to provide for people participating from locations that are not open to the public. It says if there's a quorum of members participating in a location open to the public, here, then the next sentence, a member who is participating from a remote location that is not open to in-person physical attendance by the public shall not count toward a quorum of the board.
That's correct, towards quorum.
Yeah.
Right, but the quorum has to be in person.
Okay.
It's not inconsistent with it not being accessible to the public.
But I'm sorry, maybe I didn't understand, but it sounded like you were saying that if someone was going to participate remotely, that they would have to make their home open to the public.
They would be known to the public, and yes, they would have to make their, if you read further on in the regs, it does say you have to make the location known to the public.
This is saying that somebody could be participating from a remote location that is not open to in-person physical attendance.
They're not there in physical attendance, but that doesn't mean that we have to notify the public where you are. You may not count towards the quorum, but we do have to notify where you're acting and voting. That's in section 103, subparagraph 3A2, is it not? I can pull it up for you.
I don't need you to pull it up, and maybe I'm just not reading it right, so.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments?
Just one. This resolution tracks the law
That is correct.
as it has been enacted.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, my only comment is we have to follow the law, whether we like it or not, and
Right.
is that not the bottom line?
That is the bottom. The notion, the legislative history behind this law, just so everyone understands, it wasn't intended to make video conferencing more accessible in the sense that we are coming out of COVID. The legislature is well aware of that. It is to create an opportunity or alternative under extreme circumstances as defined in the statute, which we defer to the statute on that. And obviously, the chair of any public body or committee of the university can determine what is an extreme circumstance to invoke this protocol. But it's not designed to be an alternative in the ordinary course to a public meeting of a public body. The goal is that hopefully you will have public meetings, and they will be open to the public, and you will have a quorum of people acting in person at those meetings who are authorized to take action on behalf of the public body.
Okay, I move the approval of policy item B1. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passed. No more items on the agenda, but talk about it quickly. I move to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? This meeting is adjourned.
What kind of meetings that like?